The novel Zap. I'm a mind reader from the Zach Files. Chapter 5. When I got home, I decided to tell my dad what had happened. We've always been pretty close, but we've become even closer since my folks split up and Dad got his own apartment. I can tell my dad anything at all, and he always understands. I don't understand, said my dad. You say you think you can read people's minds? No, Dad. I said I don't think I can. I know I can. I'm sorry, Zach, he said, but that doesn't seem possible. Oh, it's possible, all right, I said. Okay, then. What am I thinking right now? Right this very minute. Here's what you're thinking, I said. Maybe the divorce is finally getting to me. Maybe you ought to send me to that child psychologist. His mouth dropped open. How did you know that's what I was thinking? He whispered. Dad, I already told you. I said I read minds. It happens in science class. I got an electric shock. Okay, what am I thinking now? You're hoping the psychologist is free next Monday, I said. Dad, trust me, this has nothing to do with the divorce. He sighed and shook his head. This is amazing, he said. Truly amazing. Okay, what number am I thinking of? 87, I said. Dad, I need your advice about something I heard in school. Somebody is plotting a murder. He looked at me very seriously and narrowed his eyes. What animal am I thinking of? He asked. A duck-billed platypus, I said impatiently. Dad, didn't you hear what I said? Somebody in school is plotting a murder. I'm sorry, Zach, he said. It's just pretty incredible to find out your son is a mind reader. But you nailed everything I was thinking, including the 87 and the duck-billed platypus. Now, what's all this about somebody plotting a murder? I picked up somebody's thoughts. They said they were going to kill someone. Tomorrow. I can't believe it could be one of the kids in my class. Maybe it's the janitor. He's very weird. Anytime we hang around his office in the basement, he yells at us. Once he said if we didn't stop bothering him, he'd kill us. Oh, that's just an expression, said my dad. People say that kind of thing all the time. Doesn't mean they're killers. Dad had a point. But it wasn't Mr. Hogmeister. But if it wasn't Mr. Hogmeister, who was it? Mrs. Coleman-Levin? Dad, you've met Mrs. Coleman-Levin. Did she strike you as the murdering type? Of course not. You're really being silly, Zach, Dad said with a wave of his hand. Then he focused his eyes on me. Okay, now, what famous singer am I thinking of? If you can do this every time, I could get you on the Tonight Show. I tuned Dad out. It was clear he wasn't taking this seriously. But then he hadn't heard that scary voice saying, kill, kill. Somebody's life was in danger, and I was going to have to solve this mystery on my own. So far, I had two main suspects, Mr. Hogmeister and Mrs. Coleman-Levin. And in case you're wondering which famous singer Dad was thinking of, it was Barry Manilow. Gross. Chapter 6. I came to school wearing earmuffs the next day. I looked stupid in them, but I found it helped block out other people's thoughts. Here's the thing about mind reading. Most of the stuff you learn, you wish you hadn't. Like Mrs. Tardash, the old lady who lives next door to us. I learned she would like to have a date with my dad. I found that out this morning in the elevator. And Dad? I found he hasn't been to the dentist in about 2 years. He makes me go every 6 months. It isn't fair. I got to school half an hour early. That was so I could snoop around a little. It was scary having to track a killer by myself, but what else could I do? I couldn't go to the police. I mean, what would I tell them? That I'd read the mind of somebody who was planning a murder? Somehow, I didn't think they'd be too impressed with that. I took off my earmuffs, went down to the basement, and hung around the janitor's office. Mr. Hogmeister was my number one suspect. It was mainly because I didn't want to be in Mrs. Coleman-Levin Didn't want it to be Mrs. Coleman Levin. She may be weird, but I like her. I could hear the sounds of heavy rain and thunder outside. A big storm was on its way. I'd heard that on the morning news. It made the basement seem even scarier. But I didn't let that stop me. I had to find out who the killer was before he killed. I pretended to be picking up litter in the hallway, but I was hoping to pick up evil thoughts from Mr. Hogmeister. For several minutes, Mr. Hogmeister didn't have a single interesting thought. My nose itches, I heard. I'll scratch it. Then, that feels good. Scratching is good, especially if you itch. Not as good if you don't. A second later, I heard, outlet. Got to put in a new outlet. That kid Zach shorted out the old one. Dumb. So Mr. Hogmeister thought I was dumb, did he? Well, I didn't think he was exactly a genius. The question, though, was whether he was a killer. I heard more thunder outside. What was Mr. Hogmeister doing in there? I wished I could see. There was no keyhole in the door, but there was a little space between the door and the floor. I lay down and tried to peer under the door. At first, I didn't see anything at all. Then I saw a huge pair of feet. Then the feet started walking toward the door. Oh no! I had to get up fast. The door swung open. I scrambled to my feet, but I tripped and fell flat on my face. Mr. Hogmeister stood over me like a giant. Thunder rumbled closer. What the heck are you doing? He said in this really angry voice. Oh, hi there, Mr. Hogmeister, I said. I got up and slapped the dust off my shirt and pants. I said, what were you doing down there on the floor in front of my office? He demanded. Push-ups, sir? I said. What? I was doing push-ups. I always do push-ups before class, just sort of wake myself up. Mr. Hogmeister fastened his scary eyes on me. Then he leaned way down and pushed his face up close to mine. I think he must have eaten a garlic donut for breakfast. P.U. I was scared he was going to take a hammer and clonk me over the head, but instead he did something else. He started laughing. I had never seen Mr. Hogmeister laugh before. It was not a pretty sight. Then I turned in on his thoughts. Push-ups? Give me a break. Does he really expect me to believe that? He turned and walked down the hallway, shaking his head. These kids, they kill me. He laughed a weird laugh again. I watched Mr. Hogmeister go. I was very puzzled. His thoughts didn't exactly sound like the thoughts of a murderer. Mr. Hogmeister was a weird guy, all right, but I was starting to think that maybe I should cross him off my list of suspects. Only, if I did that, then my number one suspect was Mrs. Coleman Levin.